again, for the third time in less than a year, the board finds itself in a position of fulfilling that responsibility and speaking out. Over the last months, we have all read about the increasing acts of violence and hate crimes committed against the Asian American Pacific Islander community, culminating in the murder of 6 Asian American women in Atlanta last week. The Select Board stands in solidarity with our AAPI community. We condemn hatred of any kind and the targeting of any individual based on their race, ethnicity, nationality, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. We remain committed to combating hatred and discrimination in any and all of its forms. We remain committed to ensuring that Westford is a community that is inclusive, safe, accepting, and that provides equitable treatment for all. Albert Einstein once said, quote, "It is harder to crack prejudice than it is to crack an atom," close quote. In spite of that difficulty, the board will continue to speak out against prejudice when we see it happening in our community and in the world around us, because in Westford, hate has no place. Okay, with that, moving on to our other items in open forum. First, we'd like to congratulate our Assistant Town Manager, Eric Heidemann, and his wife, Laura, and their daughter, Amelia, on the birth of their new daughter, Colette, last week. Mother, father, and daughter are all doing well, and we send our best wishes to all of them. And for anybody who is looking for Eric in the next 4 weeks, he's going to be otherwise engaged. He is on parental leave right now, and we'll be back in about 4 weeks. Next. So we are about to pay tribute to someone who has been a fixture in our town for 40 years. Next week, Chip Barrett, after more than 40 years of service to Westford, is retiring. Chip started as a call firefighter in 1977, a position that he held until 2005. From 1979 to 1981, he was a heavy equipment operator at the Highway Department. From 1984 to 1995, he was an intermittent police officer with the Westford Police Department. He was twice elected to Water Commissioner from 1986 through 1991. And in 1991, and for the next 30 years, Chip has served as our highway superintendent. It should be noted that at the time Chip started as a highway superintendent, there were approximately 75 miles of accepted roads in Westford. Today, there is more than double that mileage of roads in Westford. In addition, Chip is currently responsible for 4 dams, 5,000 sewer, water and catchment basins, 4 dams, as I said, and 11 bridges. But Chip's responsibilities really don't just stop with the highway department. Along the way, in 2009, he became our tree warden, and Chip has always been ready to lend a helping hand to anyone, to any department, to any organization that asked. From assisting to opening the community gardens, to the maintenance of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, to setting up and coordinating our brush removal programs, to helping the Friends of East Boston camps, to simply responding to requests from residents that he might meet along the way when he is out patrolling our roads. Throughout his career, Chip has been a member of the American Public Works Association, and in 2017, he was awarded the Professional Manager of the Year. He was recognized for his leadership, his commitment to the public works, and his commitment to his community. He was also recognized for his ongoing commitment to emergency response. I am sure that many of us have stories about Chip during emergencies, whether they be snow emergencies, whether they be responding to ice storms, trail derailments, or hurricanes. Chip was always there and ready to respond. Perhaps, Chip, your lasting legacy will be the condition of our roads throughout your tenure, and particularly during storms. Our roads in Westford are always the first to be cleared and the best to be cleared when compared with surrounding towns. As someone who travels back and forth from Boston, or who did up until a year ago, I would breathe a heavy sigh of relief and release my death grip on my steering wheel when I entered Westford to see our roads being cleared and plowed. Chip's love for Westford knows no bounds. And we are all so very grateful, Chip, for everything that you have done over the years for the town of Westford, both small and large. We expect to continue to see you around town. We expect that some way you will continue to give back to the town that you so love. But as you enter this next phase of your life and as you enter retirement, we want to wish you, Vanessa, and Alana all of the best and only good times ahead for the three of you. So from a very, very grateful town, from a town that was going to be very sad to see you go and not to know that Chip Barrett is not roaming our roads at 3 a.m. in the middle of a snowstorm or monitoring the National Weather Service. We wish you all of the best. And I know that there are some other folks who also want to speak, Chip, so you're just going to have to sit there and listen to all of them as well. So Steve Cronin, actually, before I get to you, Steve, let me ask members of the board if they've got, and I'm sure they do, if they have some comments to make. Scott.
Literally, the day after I was elected as a select board member, I had a phone call from a resident on Plain Road of a pothole, that classic complaint. I emailed Chip. I got back this amazing discussion of, wasn't really a pothole, it was, he explained all the technicalities of this sort of what had happened. Bottom line was, well, there's like 3 or 4 days in town, I'll get it fixed. I'll put one contract together and get it fixed. So my first day on the job, Chip made me look good. So, and it's been, for the past how many years, it makes us all look good. So Chip, thanks for all you do and all you've done, and best wishes for your retirement.
Tom, and then Mark.
I don't know how Westford is able to find such amazing public servants that care so deeply about their work, but Chip, that's absolutely you. The roads in Westford are the envy of our neighbors. Lots of people are grateful to you who maybe don't even know your name, but they know what it's like to drive through Westford and are grateful for that. And I hope maybe for the first time in 30 years or 40 years, you'll be able to sleep in during a snowstorm sometime.
Mark?
Yeah, so Chip, thank you so much. It has been amazing, and I agree with Tom. I'm amazed all the time at the number of quality individuals in this town who just do this for a long time and do it with passion and love. I have to say I don't know what Chip did after our capital planning committees for the last 12 years, but I can honestly say out of all the departments, his department was one that probably bore the brunt the most of the demands that we made on transparency, on data, things of that nature. And at least in the room, yeah, he always did it with grace and always came back with exactly the information that the committee was looking for, and allowed us to make just some fantastic decisions, and many times not necessarily what he was hoping for himself. So which I think is also says a lot about the person and his support of the town. So Chip, I wish you all the best. I do hope to see you around, maybe at Aviva every once in a while when the world opens up again. And I certainly hope you have a great retirement.
Thank you.
Anita?
Yeah, I've only had the privilege of meeting with Chip once in person, but during that meeting, I learned so much. And I think I'm not surprised at all that he won the award for the American Public Works Association. He won another award that encompassed both North America, so it's Canada and the US. And for us to have that leadership here is really amazing. And I remember just how visionary you were, how forward thinking you are, how proactive you are, and how you're planning things. And I really respect that. And I think about you actually in what I learned from those conversations. If we're picking up a road or a streetway or something during town meeting, all the upkeep that comes with that. If we're talking about a sidewalk, all of the upkeep that comes with that too. And I just want you to know that I kept this booklet from our meeting that is your nomination information and your letter of recommendations. And I'm so glad that I have this. And I'm just so glad to have met you. And I definitely took so much from our one meeting. So thank you so much for your service to this town.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I know Steve Cronin would like to say something.
Chip, it's definitely been an honor and a privilege to work alongside you for these last 10 plus years. You've taught me so much and you've been such an inspiration to me. It's impossible to sum up the 44 years of service you've given to the town in a few short sentences. But, I think anyone that's worked alongside you would admit that you truly love this town. It definitely shows through how committed you are to the job. It doesn't matter how many inches of snow has fallen or how many trees have blown down. You always worked till the end of the storm, and you always stayed until your staff was out of harm's way and on their way home. You've given more overnights, weekends, and holidays to this town than anyone will ever know, but it hasn't gone unnoticed. Westford has a reputation for having the best roads because of you. I wish you a happy and healthy retirement, but I have to admit, I'm going to miss watching how excited you get when the forecast calls for a plowable snow event.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Emily Teller, I know I see you, Jody, but Emily Teller would like to say something. So Mike, can you unmute Emily?
All right, yes, unmute myself first.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. I'm unmuted. Thank you. Chip Barrett is such a star in this town for so many reasons, but I'm representing the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail at this point, and he was there from the very, very beginning in the 80s. He talked to abutters. He worked once 2007 happened with the Mass DOT project manager, Mark Fideli, and the construction contractors. He was just, everybody knew that he would have the answer to anything. He helped us install the Lowell General kiosk. There are 4 granite benches that his guys dug holes for and poured cement, and were so flexible about where and how to put those in. And he has always been sort of the go-to person for the safe crossing equipment that the Friends paid for crossing Route 27. It's a solar installation, and invariably the battery will go or something. And Chris and I just call Chip, and he makes the phone call, and magic happens, and it gets replaced. And also some signs that we've had to replace for different reasons. We have them delivered to the highway garage, and they magically get up, or taken down, as the parking sign was on 27. As Anita mentioned, the Phase 2A was awarded an international award of the rail trail. And I found that out from Chip calling me and telling me about this award for Concord that I was clueless about, but obviously was something the rail trail people really were thrilled to share. And the last thing is, he just takes so much care of Texas Road. I've lived here 37 years. It was dirt when we moved here, and in the summers it would be graded, and then we went betterments, and he was on the crew for that. And then eventually it was oiled twice, and now he treats it ahead of snow and ice, and he just knows everything about so much, and he's always positive. And Chip, you are the most caring person I know in this town. So I just wanted to say thank you, best wishes, and may you just have lots of vacation ahead of you and time to just enjoy what you want to do and not have anybody tell you what to do. Thanks for being there.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, Jody.
So
Last
Chip,
but not least.
Chip, although you have 44 years under your belt, I can only account for the past 13. And to sum it up, It's been a lot. And no matter what's been thrown at you, you have handled your job in a superb manner. Shortly after I started in Westford, we had the ice storm in January of 2009. And what a storm it was. Roads were closed, trees were down, power lines down, power out, ice everywhere. And the only one smiling in town was you, Chip. You drove me around and showed me the devastation, and I couldn't believe how excited you were. So this picture actually was taken of us in the winter of 2015, which was another big year. And that, I don't even think that was a pile of snow. I think that was just the snow we'd gotten that year. But you've loved through the years sharing your winter forecast with us. This year you sent me a 36 slide PowerPoint of upcoming winter weather, but you said to me, like a good book, just go to the last pages and find out how things end. And so that's what I did. But if I ever needed a weather report, I looked to you, and you would send the most accurate weather report of anyone. And you generally signed those messages, weather report from Westford Highway Department located at Ice Station Zebra. Well, guess what, Chip? Today I finally looked up what that meant. I never knew what that meant, but now I do. So I want to watch the movie. Yeah, my brother was nuclear sub, so I got to watch that movie. But anyway, over the next 10 plus years, we've had more severe storms every year than we had in the 2 or 3 decades prior. So record-breaking snowstorms, windstorms, microbursts, even a couple of tornado warnings. But you've always enjoyed the height of the storm, and your creativity in cleaning up after the storm is unmatched by anyone. One year we were asked to present to the other Massachusetts managers lessons learned from last winter, and you did a remarkable job, and everyone listened to how Westford handled storms. Lately, you've been on Channel 4 and 7, so your audience is growing. But all surrounding communities marvel at how Westford handles any snowstorm, and our roads are the envy of all. But your career has not always been about snow and storms. You have been always willing to help with any project. One call to you, Chip, and you're on it. You would reply, Roger that, and then consider it done. Few are as responsive as you are. My requests have all been handled immediately. Tree problems, mailbox, snow issues, electronic sign usage, flu clinic traffic, recycling traffic. If I called Chip, consider it done. Couple other things. Has anybody seen Chip drive a flatbed truck or a trailer? He has got that down better than anybody I've seen in my lifetime. Residents love you, Chip. Anytime I had a complaint and I sent you on it, the residents started off upset by some issue, and they ended up writing letters of accolades of Chip and our highway department. So you definitely have a way with our residents. Other projects you were instrumental on, the community garden, farmers market, the Bruce Street and Rail Trail, as Emily stated, National Grid. You've encouraged them to do amazing things with our roads and our tree trimming. You implemented the pavement management system, and you've just done a remarkable amount, even in my short time here. So as you leave your job as highway superintendent, you are leaving very big shoes to fill. And I thank you for all you've done for our town, a town you love, and I hope you will still answer your phone when I call. So we've got a little slideshow for you, Chip.
Because that's what we do.
Even when Eric's out. You look the same.
Same shirt.
I think you were a redhead back then.
That was high school. That was working for the highway department back in the 70s. That was the crew. Yep, that was, I was president of the Firemen's Association for multiple years. It's a little
I love
skate.
this one.
That's a little diving down off of Key West.
Oh, wow.
This is finishing up a bridge in Graniteville. We partnered with the state on that. It was a great project. That's a great picture. Jackman, Maine. This is the one I sold the first salt shed on. We didn't clean up the salt mess we had. Those would be coming up the Stony Brook. I was able to take a couple of laps up at New Hampshire in Richard Petty's car. It's my good friend Mitch Michaels that gave me the inside information on the snowstorms.
Huh.
Oh yeah, this is when I told him I was going to put the beer on the road. Luckily at the time I filled up mugs. My good friend John Denver, met him out in Denver. Good friend Jeff Hall. He has helped the town in more ways than anybody will ever know. Oh, that's my lovely family. Vanessa and Alana. Is this down, Mark, with you at the Aviva? This is one of our outings in Boston with the Public Works Association.
Receiving one of your countless awards.
It was. This is walking into an awards ceremony also, I believe.
That's your leadership training with your other department heads, half of
That's
them.
right. Yes. Oh yeah, our Christmas party. Public Works does it right. This is another national award when I received it in Boston. And captain the boat here. Again, some more of my colleagues with the Public Works Association. Same here, we do have fun. This is part of one of our disasters, I believe. Again, another Christmas party. Luckily, it wasn't snowing those nights.
I think that might be it. So thank you so much, Chip. We wish you a very long, healthy, happy retirement.
Well, thank you very much. And I must say, I chose the lighting in my office here because I'm very humble and you might not see the big guy have a little tear. But it's been with mixed emotions. It's been a long time. Going to spend some time with my family. I truly appreciate the nice things that everybody said. It's been my humble pleasure to serve the people of the town of Westford. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip.
Thanks, Chip.
Thank you.
You
All
still
right.
have another week. You got another week, Chip.
Yes, 4 days, actually.
I don't like to see guys cry.
I'm not crying. I'm
Okay.
humble.
I'm humbled.
Humble is good.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve the town. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you deserve it, Chip. Best of luck.
Every moment of it. Okay. The last thing on our open forum FAQs, at least that I have tonight, is just to announce that non-petition articles for our annual town meeting are due in the town manager's office by next Wednesday, March 31st at 10 a.m. And the deadline for citizen petition articles is due to the town clerk's office for certification of signatures by Tuesday, April 6th at 2 p.m. So anybody from the board have anything for open forum? Okay, seeing none. And I realized that I did forget to make my initial announcements, which is to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, that all questions and comments that we receive are made part of the public document. And that if you have a question, please write your question in the question text box, because that is the way we can best see your question. And although you can raise your hand, we often miss hand raising. So better to use the question box. Okay, our 7:15 item, which is a community update on COVID-19 situation and the impacts on town operations during this period. Jeff Stevens, I think you're going to update us on a possible intermunicipal agreement with respect to vaccination, and anything else you have to tell us tonight with respect to COVID.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I would also like to just thank Chip for his years of service as a newer department head in Westford. He has been so extraordinarily helpful to me in just getting flu clinics started, with moving equipment, even buying my very first vehicle, and how Westford did that. I honestly don't know what I would have done without the guy. He's amazing and he'll be missed for sure. With regards to this clinic, obviously we all know there's been a shortage of vaccine throughout the state, and many municipalities have been left out of being able to vaccinate their people. What we have done with a group of towns, which includes Acton, Bedford, Carlisle, Concord, Lincoln, Maynard, Sudbury, Wayland, and Westford, we've banded together and petitioned the state to put together a clinic that will be able to serve this particular region. The reason why this particular group came together is we are far enough away from many of the larger clinics. And I know a town of Westford has potentially as many as 13,000 people to maybe 14,000 that have not been able to be vaccinated yet because their numbers have not been called. So what the hope is here is, with these communities getting together, we're going to run, it's going to be a fairly large lift if we're accepted, 750 people a day for 5 days a week for all communities that are involved, and anybody that has not had their needs met geographically outside of that area as well. We're hopeful that we'll get the opportunity. We submitted the letter on Friday, and we are now currently waiting to hear from the state. This is our latest and most recent effort to get more access and vaccine to our residents in town. I think that's extraordinarily important at this point, because locally I've been watching our numbers, and even though the state's numbers have remained low, locally we've actually seen a slight uptick, and it's been very concerning to me as to how that's rolling out. In fact, our numbers last week were 19 active cases. They've doubled as of 5 o'clock this afternoon to 39. The reason why, I don't know. I know there's 7 families that are particularly involved, so a number of those are a group of families, but we're paying really close attention and starting to ramp up some more education and just getting people back on board with getting out of the COVID fatigue and realizing that we need to keep pushing and keeping our masks and hand washing and social distancing going forward. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, and we're just going to continue to keep fighting to find ways to get people what they need.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Tom?
Just a lot of gratitude, Jeff, for working on this. We heard from the Cameron Senior Center, some of the great work they're doing providing transportation access. Is there any way, or is it part of the plan, Jeff, that folks in Westford that may have transportation challenges that would make it harder for them to get to one of the other sites will somehow be able to have some sort of preferred access, or is it not working that way? Is it just the overall state infrastructure of who gets a number where?
If we're able to open this site, which will be located in Acton, we'll work to make sure we can use our vans to get people that have difficulty getting transportation to there. Jennifer and her crew have been really successful in getting many people over to the Lowell site. I don't know the exact number of people they've transported over, but it's 12 to 16 a day, and we've been doing this for a few weeks now. So they've been doing really, really well in that aspect. I expect to be able to do the same thing, and it's my understanding that we should have some appointments that will be for each for each community that's involved that we can designate to our own employees. The one thing that we're going to do and need to do is a part of this group, we're going to designate one day that we're actually clinic managers as a town. With the amount of towns doing this, the plan is to hire a vaccine czar, if you will, that will manage the entire clinic every day, and every other community involved will come in and manage their volunteers and their people to make sure that we're filling all our slots we need for that project. As far as a true intermunicipal agreement, I don't think we'll know what that looks like until we truly get accepted as a clinic. But I'm excited if we're able to pull this off.
Great. So if this, as this comes together and we do more outreach, we'll make sure we reach out to people who might be transportation challenged and try to connect them with the right resource.
Absolutely. And Tom, I owe you an email back too.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, don't see any, and I don't see any questions from the public. So moving on to our next item, which is to reevaluate the suspended collection of the Road and Bush Community Center rent payments due to the disruption in programming due to COVID. I'm sure the board all remembers that, we agreed to suspend rent payments, but to look at that again and reevaluate that again come April 1st. So here we are at about April 1st. And so I guess, time to take a look at this to decide whether we continue with this, whether we modify it in some way, or completely abandon it, whatever we may decide to do. So, is Michelle out there?
I am.
There you are.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. So do you want to update us and where things stand and sort of what, the next months look like for you in light of, the fact that some things are now opening up in the state with
Sure.
respect to opening programs again?
Yeah, I'll give you some of the program highlights. Road and Bush is continuing to run the Westford Farmers Market. I think you're going to hear from Avery later about that with the use of the common. And we have a goal to make it bigger than ever, and that we're adding more weeks. And we hope to have greater interest than last year, but it was even great to have it last year. Road and Bush is going to pick up the Westford Parent Connections meaningful programming. We're going to begin offering workshops for parents throughout the school year. As far as our programming right now, the school age program was a pivotal program for parents and K-2 students during this past year. Our program was able to keep up the needs of remote learning while adapting to regularly changing guidelines as pandemic response evolved. And now we will expand to K-5 again to meet the needs of the community as the children begin to return to the school. In-person community ed classes have been limited due to hesitation from the public and instructors. However, we currently have CPR, SAT prep. We're going to be having or trying to have in-person Kung Fu, ballet, and yoga. Of course, that's greatly dependent on the comfortableness that the public feels. We have a goal to bring back our gymnastics program in the fall and to offer outdoor activities for the whole family to enjoy. We are still restricted. We have capacity limits from our licensed programs by the Department of Early Education and Care, which, does place a limiting maximum capacity at both our Old NAB preschool and the child care programs. I know we also forwarded along a financial statement review. I don't know if you have questions about that. I don't know if I need to go through bullet by bullet, but I do want to say that we are very grateful to the town for your willingness to suspend our rent for the first quarter of 2021. As you see in our financials, this pandemic has drastically impacted our financial position, and we are still very challenged with getting programs back to where we were pre-pandemic. We continue to be faced, as I said, with census limits set by the Department of Early Education and Care. And, getting to the point at 65 Main Street where we're just hoping that more groups are comfortable gathering in person to take classes. We received a PPP loan recently, and that will assist us in paying our staff salaries over the next 4 months. That is the staff that we were able to keep on board. Right now, we have only a total of 38 employees. We had furloughed originally, most of them have 62 employees, but we were able to bring back 38. So we are appreciative from any assistance from the town. And, I'm here to answer any questions that might help you make any decision to continue, modify, or hopefully not abandon. But again, thank you.
Okay, Mark.
Yes, hi, Michelle, thank you.
Sure.
So let's go into the assumption just for a second that the town can't afford to waive completely. Have you and the board talked about a percentage that would work? And I'm not saying that, I'm not implying by any stretch of the imagination that anybody on this board or myself is adverse to continuing complete deferral, but I need to hear from Jody as well, but just trying to get a sense of where you and the board are on what would be affordable at this point for some period of time.
I'd have to go back to them. We haven't talked specifics. I really wanted to see where you guys were tonight. That's all I can really say. We haven't really talked about what specifically would be the best option.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Tom and then Scott.
Also, thank you, Michelle. I think my memory of what I was thinking when we talked about this before is that we want to be alert to the conditions and we want to see what kind of programming was going on. It seems like there's still vital programming happening here for the community, and the conditions that prevent us from going back to something closer to normal are still here. So I think what I was hoping for was just to check in at this point to see if conditions had changed substantially. I think both in terms of the good work that Road and Bush is doing and the overall constraints they're under, that hasn't changed. So I also want to hear from Jody just to understand what the numbers are, but I would be in general in favor of continuing the deferral for another, say, 3 months.
Thank you, Tom.
Scott?
Yeah, that was exactly my feeling that when you first discussed this, we thought, well, what's the appropriate time frame? Is it a year? Is it less? We made it less than a year, and so we'll reassess. And here we are with a state still largely shut down for this kind of activity. And realistically, to what Jess told us, it's going to be lasting for another quarter at least. Hopefully the vaccines have put that to bed for some time, but I don't see any way really to avoid another quarter of giving this kind of assistance to the Road and Bush. And frankly, if you look at what's been done in Congress, they've been extending rent forgiveness down up to September. So I think it's a general consensus that this is vital to survival for some of our organizations.
Thank you, Scott.
I guess Jody, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm very pleased to see that Road and Bush was awarded $270,000 in the Paycheck Protection Program. They actually did submit their rent payment to us about 2 weeks ago, but we did not cash it. We wanted to come back and visit with you. So you've got their financials. It's really up to you. If you'd like to continue this as we have for the next 3 months, we can do that and bring it back to you at the conclusion of that time period. It's really up to you.
Anita?
Yeah, I just had a question, and I don't know if this was in the packet and I missed it, or maybe you could help walk me through it, Michelle, but have you done any sort of forecasting in terms of programming, with the schools kind of opening back up again in April and what that would look like for your programs?
Thanks, Anita. When they open back up in April, we'll actually see a little bit of a dip because we've been having children there full days. We had a remote option, so children could be with us every other week remote, and then they're on their half days. So, we're doing what the public needs by switching to an after-school only program. So we'll see initially a little bit of a dip for those final 10 weeks of school. We are planning a summer program again. Last year, it was minimally attended. We're certainly hoping that people want to come back out, but, as everybody's saying, there's still definitely some hesitation. And we are trying to project forward. We usually would have our budget in place by this time, but again, we're waiting to see if EEC will follow along the lines of DESE to, lift some of the restrictions that are currently in place, but they haven't made any announcements.
Mark? Oh, I'm sorry, Anita wasn't finished.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment that I appreciate that you guys picked up the Westford Parent Connection. I know that was a huge program that people were very sad about, that it was ending, and that you're picking up and that's continuing. I think that's great. I was just wondering whether or not there's going to be, are you charging for any of those programs that come out of that?
Yeah, no, we're going to work largely the same way that they did and work hard to get sponsors to sponsor the speakers. So there won't be a cost to parents. Thank you, Anita.
Okay. Now, Mark.
Yeah, so Jody, I don't know if we haven't gone through this part of the budget yet, but what is the assumption for Road and Bush in the current plan for next year? Is it a full resumption of lease payments?
I'd have to ask Dan that, and he is in the background, so I honestly don't remember.
And there he is. You speak his name and he appears.
No longer in the
magic.
background.
So this is one of our 53.5 revolving funds. So basically it's money in and money out. It's not part of the regular operating budget. So, we just use this account to maintain those 3 buildings that TRCCI occupies.
Right, but to the extent, we use it to do that, but if the revenue is not coming in, then it's a net hit. So my question to you is the assumption that right now that the full rent payments for next fiscal are in the budget?
Yeah, we have a lease, so we don't actually have a capital budget with TRCCI at this point. It's something we should be working on, but there is no assumption right now that money's coming in at this point.
So I have a proposal, which is that we defer rent until the end of this fiscal. No, not defer, but eliminate the rent between now and the end of June. But I think we do need an update, maybe it's after I retire, but sometime in May or early June before the new fiscal comes on, because I think we do need to understand, and there are going to be expenses in that building. There is, there are the buildings. There's going to be capital requirements, even though there aren't. None of it was reviewed in the capital committee, as far as I'm concerned. But I think if we do that and then just ask for, an update for a decision to be made regarding what we should be doing in fiscal 2022, that would be my proposal. So it's to abate it until the end of this fiscal, with a response back or a review back in sometime in May.
So that sort of follows what I was thinking, Mark, which was to continue to abate it. I guess I was thinking also about, what is the summer going to look like for Road and Bush, and what's the enrollment in programs going to be? Are people going to be signing up as, things open up more? And so I was actually thinking, June 1st, that Road and Bush come back and report to us in terms of what summer looks like, and then also what you were saying is what, projecting out into what next year looks like, and to give us an update, and then we can start thinking about whether we will continue with abating the rent, starting July 1st the next fiscal year, or whether we will, modify it and have them start paying something, based on perhaps, some revenue that's coming in, and bring it back then, basically. Scott, and then Tom.
Well, I thought I heard a motion from Mark that we should abate rent for 1 quarter and reevaluate.
He said it was a proposal. He said it was a proposal, so I wasn't sure if it was a motion or if he was just bringing it up for discussion first.
I was elevating it to a motion. I was going to say I'll second it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it's through the end of the fiscal with a comeback date of, June, or, with the first meeting in June, or whatever you want to do. That's fine.
Okay. Dan has, yeah.
Yeah, so back in November, I believe in that motion, we had recommended that money doesn't exchange hands because the Road and Bush does deduct cost of electricity and natural gas. So friendly amendment, if you so kindly accept it, to just not exchange money if you're waiving rent. Make it a little easier.
Yeah, that's what I meant, exactly.
Me too.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Could I just ask, I'm trying to understand too, was it eliminate, abate? I just wanted a little more clarification on the proposal.
Yeah, so they're one and the same, eliminate and abate. So
Okay.
No payments.
Yep.
Through the end of this fiscal,
Okay.
with no cash changing hands, Dan.
Right. And with you folks reporting back to us at our first meeting in June, whenever that is, whatever date that is. Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Excellent. Thank you all very much.
Okay, we also have a request from Ryan Cobley, our Veteran Service Officer, to hold a virtual Memorial Day ceremony in light of the pandemic. Scott?
I just want to say that, last year they did a fantastic job with that. So, thank you for doing it last year. Thank you for doing it for Veterans Day. And by all means, I think it's appropriate to do it again.
Second.
Well, I guess I'm going to be this sort of raise the question here. In light of, regulations and rules that have been relaxed recently, and the fact that you can have gatherings outdoors, public gatherings outdoors for more than 100, for up to 100 people now. And the fact is, sadly, we have not seen 100 people at our Memorial Day celebration for the past several years. I guess I'm wondering if we make that decision now, if we wait a few weeks to see if our numbers, I know that Jeff has told us our numbers have started to creep up a little bit, which is concerning, but to see if they come back down. If there is a way to, if we can hold our memorial service outdoors again, it would be nice if we could start to return to sort of a pre-pandemic normalcy, and start to celebrate things as we have in the past. So while I'm not opposed to having a virtual again, and maybe we do both and have a video as well as something on the common, I'd like to wait another few weeks to see what happens, to see if it might be possible to hold it outside. but that's just one woman's opinion.
Yeah, fair enough.
Tom?
I certainly don't object to that. I guess I would like Ryan's recommendation again then, because it sounds like if he had to make his recommendation now, as per his memo, it would be that it's his feeling and the feeling of the veterans that he's worked with that it might be better not to do it this year. So if we want to wait a little bit and see if their feelings change, but I definitely would want to hear from Ryan about what he and the veterans he's serving think.
No, I agree. I mean, if the veterans are adamantly opposed, then I think that we should follow their wishes, obviously, and act accordingly. But if we can wait, and I don't know why we can't wait, another, till our first meeting in April to revisit it. If we could, it would be my suggestion that we do that. I see nodding heads, so I'm going to take that as let's postpone a decision and put this on our first meeting in April, Jody. Great. Ryan, I know you're out there. Is that, do you want to add anything or comment?
That is perfectly fine to postpone it. We're still working on the virtual one as well.
Yep.
Trying to get some speakers for both in person and virtual, just in case. I guess like the main concern, parades were restricted still, and even if they lift the restrictions on that, a lot of the veterans I did speak with did not want to march with masks on in the parade, which that restriction is not going to be lifted.
But maybe we don't have a parade and we just gather at the Common is something, that we can consider.
Yes, we can definitely consider that. And we'll probably continue with the virtual as well, because we can reach a bigger crowd. But yeah, let's see where the numbers are going.
Right. And as Tom said, to check in with you and with our veterans to see how they're feeling. Okay. Thank you. All right. So we now are at our 7:35 p.m. item, which is a joint meeting with the Economic Development Committee and the Planning Board to discuss a proposed town meeting warrant article to amend the zoning bylaw to allow for drive-throughs for restaurants within the commercial highway zoning district with the benefit of a special permit from the Planning Board. Okay, I don't know who's presenting this, whether it's Bruce, whether it's Jeff Morissette, whether it's Dylan O'Connor, but or whether it's Bob Schaffer. So whoever it is, just let us know.
It's Bruce that's ready to start. And first I would just see, I guess I could share my webcam. Okay, so, okay. So you can see me when that answers a question, because I was going to ask you, I saw Mark drinking. I couldn't tell if it was mango juice. And so if I hold up a glass of wine, I can tell you it's grapefruit juice. First, I want to thank you all, and congratulations to Chip, to Eric Heidemann, and condolences to Jody. Jody, as an aside, one of your tasks when this is over, 15 minutes a week together. I'm going to teach you about ice station zebra and lines like, we're going to need a bigger boat, toga, food fight, and so on. So we'll get you Hollywood educated. Anyway, I want to thank you all. Andrea, Miss Chairperson, I'm here with members of the Planning Board and EDC. And with your permission, I'll just talk a few minutes to kind of set the stage, a little bit of background. And with your permission, hand it off to either Dylan or Bob or Kate Hollister, and some of my compatriots in the EDC will chime in if that's okay with you. But I'll just try to take a couple of minutes and set the stage, if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So I guess what I would like to talk about is a little bit of the what, the why, and why now and what's different. I think a good part of the what has already been captured in the line item. Just as a 30-second background, I think a lot of this took garnered renewed focus back at the EDC meeting in February, when we decided to focus on what has been a standing town issue. And so the EDC, quickly with the Westford Business Association, and then a few weeks later, the planning board all came together. And our request tonight are kind of twofold for you. First, soliciting an endorsement to again place on the annual town meeting warrant an article that would allow through special permitting, drive-through restaurants in the commercial highway zone. And then secondly, hopefully garnering your support and your endorsement to allow us to initiate a process by which we can solicit town inputs without getting into specifics. And I don't know that we have all the specifics defined, but to do a better job than perhaps was done in the past in terms of gathering the citizens' inputs, what their concerns, their issues, various parameters that they feel are required in order to address this special permitting. So that's kind of the what. So, why is it needed? There are just so many anecdotal issues that have come up recently. It ranges anywhere from those group of people who are, let's say, the parents or grandparents with a couple of young children in the back of their car and car seats, who really find a challenge in order to be able to exit the car, pick up food or whatever, to those who are elderly and disabled, and almost any type of distance is a challenge. Again, without going through a lengthy debate, contactless curbside delivery is not the same as to what we're trying to achieve here. It has its own types of restrictions and obstacles. COVID-19 has also resulted in a shift of work types of mechanics, telecommuting. I'm sure that even the town offices, when they were partially open, people would leave their homes to go to the office or leave the office to go home. Also an opportunity for some type of quick pickup. What we're looking to achieve here, and again, I'll leave this to Dylan or Bob or Kate to talk about further. Let's refer to it as fast casual type of food. Some of the inescapable trends that are obvious to us. Social distancing, has resulted in a significant reduction in the density with which any of us can interact, whether it's in a store, in a restaurant, or whatever. You notice that Westford shopping centers have obviously suffered a number of vacant stores. So although I can't tell you what the dollar value is, it's not going to be enormous, but we think that some of this could bring back additional revenue. We've learned through anecdotal studies, people here in Westford are deciding to go to other towns in order to get some of their needs satisfied. And in terms of what isn't the truth, and we can again debate this, some folks have argued that drive-throughs create extra litter, and it's really hard to substantiate. People create litter. I could go into any store that you have here and walk out and create my own litter, so it's not a drive-through restaurant. So what's new? Why now? Well, listen, we all listen to the news. We are hopeful that some type of increased types of social interactions will take place. But I don't think, for those of us that are old enough, we're not about ready to hear Judy Garland sing "Happy Days Are Here Again." This really isn't going to be the case. I think almost every physician has said we're going to live with COVID or a variant or some new type of virological disease. That's almost universal amongst all the virologists and epidemiologists. There's a new normal here, and it's not going to be pre-2019. I think one of the ways for me to get off the stage is almost has a reference to what I was saying to Jody. one of my great weaknesses is I live my life vicariously through movies and an excess amount of television. Last week, I was watching a medical drama. I won't tell you what it is other than saying to you, if you watch a drama, it has to do with the oldest public hospital in New York, and they changed the name. It's not Bellevue. The episode starts out where all the doctors are still concerned. They don't want to bring patients back into the hospital. They're frightened of everything. People have their children living out of town. And when the episode ends, one of the senior physicians uses a word or comes up with a phrase, coexist. We're going to need to coexist with this pandemic now and for a long time. And that in turn means we're going to need to find a way to provide greater convenience and accessibility to our residents for things such as food items and other. And with your permission, Andrea, let me get off the stage and flip this to either Dylan or Bob Schaffer and let them take over and have some of my other compatriots chime in as well.
Okay, thank you. Dylan, Kate, Bob, whomever you want, whomever you have designated.
Yeah, Bob will be presenting, but just as a point of procedure and in case we're asked to take any action, I would just like to call to order the planning board joint session with the select board here tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bob, who I think is in the best position on the board's behalf to make our statement.
All right, so for the past month, I've worked closely with Bruce, Tom Barry, and Ron Caterino on this topic, and we've started to go out and socialize this. Last week, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and Thursday night, we met with Anita and Scott at the Commission on Disability. And so we're kind of starting to collect that information. And as Bruce said, what we're really here tonight is just to get your support, hopefully to put the warrant article on the warrant. And I think following the special town meeting in the fall, I had spoken to a number of the members of your board, and we talked about if it ever went back, what we would do differently would be to run a citizens forum process. And so I think we're here to ask two things tonight. One, to seek your support to put a warrant article on the warrant using pretty much identical language to last year. That's just the warrant article. And then we would work in the upcoming months before town meeting to tailor what the form of the motion would look like. And we have a couple of examples, one being the special permit process that is used for the Route 129 business opportunity district over in Chelmsford. And so that's what we're here tonight. A couple things I want to mention. We are doing additional research. I still need to talk with the Tingsboro planner about what they've done because I'm kind of confused by their zoning laws. And I would also mention that pretty much at the same pace we're doing this, we have now learned that Acton is running a citizens process and have a citizen hearing for a drive-through restaurant bylaw in Acton. That's going to occur on the 13th of April. So this is happening in the surrounding communities. But that's really all I want to say. And we're looking for your questions and hopefully your support or guidance as to how to proceed tonight.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, just a quick question. So why do you need our support? I mean, can't you just put this on without our support? I'm a little confused.
Well, because we don't want to have a repeat of last fall. What we would like to do is get your support for the process and know that we're going in with the select board with us and not going to be voting against it like happened last year because we don't want to repeat. We would like to see that something different.
I don't think you're going to, honestly, Bob, I don't think you're going to get that tonight. First of all, we haven't seen the article and the motion. Let me finish. Then the motion that's going to be accompanying with it. And secondly, that's just not how the process works. I mean, I have no problem putting the article, whatever you guys bring forth, putting it on the warrant. That's fine. And then it goes through the warrant review, just like every other article, when the board takes a position on the article itself. And has a hearing on it. But I at least I won't speak for the other members of the board, but from my perspective, I can't say that I'm going to support the article and the motion tonight when I haven't even seen how it's going to look based on what you, what you heard from us last fall. What I can say is I will support you putting, I will support having an article on the warrant at this point in time. I will support, if you need our help in doing some community education and, arranging things, I certainly will, help you do that. But for me, that's as far as my support goes tonight.
No, that's all we're looking for. We're not looking for you to support the wording of the motion. We're looking for you to support this process and to see if we could somehow make it different this spring. I mean, if you don't think we should be putting an article on to discuss drive-through restaurants, I think the planning board doesn't feel like we should proceed. If you think that the times have changed, that the conditions, as Bruce just discussed, have changed the conditions, we would consider putting that article on. That's all we're asking.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, so again, I'm just confused. Like, you don't need our support. Like, whether I support it or not is not the question. You have every right to, the planning board has every right to put it up as a warrant article. I am not going to tonight at all support this or not support it. So I guess I'm just confused as to why we're even having this discussion.
Okay, Anita and then Tom.
So the other night at the Commission on Disability, it came up during open forum, and I know it's going to be an agenda item formally at our next meeting where we're going to discuss it and go a little bit more into depth in terms of the commission. But I remember during our open forum discussion, it was thinking through, what are things that the planning board or this group should consider as they're putting forward this warrant article or proposing to. So I remember last time at a town meeting, we were talking about needing more public input. And so they're they went to Commission on Disability, or they're going to keep going. They're going to go to Council on Aging. They're trying to do that piece. And I remember from our conversation, they were like, what are other things select board should consider? So I think that's part of the ask that got missed in this part of the conversation. But if there's something that we could help, advise on or not advise or just, contribute to that conversation, I'm sure it'd be helpful.
Tom?
I think Scott has his hand up first, but I'll go ahead with Scott's permission. Just being part of this conversation with the Economic Development Council, I do think it's an important question. We also heard that the landscape is changing in terms of use of real estate in terms of office space. But one of the things that is continuing to grow is in terms of amenities and needs is things like drive-through. So I am in favor of the discussion, and I'm in favor of getting the community input and getting some clarity developed before the meeting about exactly what's coming forward for a vote, and making sure that there's been a thoughtful discussion about exactly where it is that we're talking about doing it. So I think all those things, which are things you've mentioned in terms of developing this, are good ideas, and I'm glad that you're investigating this.
No. Scott goes and then Mark.
Oh, Scott, sorry.
Well, I guess I just think that we're perhaps assuming more than Bob and Bruce are asking. So last year we had this on the fall to meeting warrant, and I think there was some concern, at least for me, and I think for other members of this board, that it went out there before it was ready for prime time, before it had a chance for community input. And so I think what we're hearing is the Economic Development Committee, planning board want to basically make a house call to the select board and say, we want to do this. We're going to do it, we think, the way you wanted it done last fall. And do you agree this is the way that we should proceed? So I don't perceive this as we're being asked for support tonight for the article, or being asked for approval of a process that says, yes, talk to the community. We appreciate the heads up that you're doing that. And based upon that input, then a more formal article appears. Is that correct, Bob?
Yes, thank you.
Mark.
So,
Mark, I know you're still confused, I can tell.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, so that's great. So go do it. I mean, that's exactly what you should do. I mean, I would assume that's exactly what needs to happen is go get, put the warrant article on, go get public support and feedback, and go do what the board and the committee is supposed to do. I'm completely in favor of that if that's what you're asking for support on. But other than that, I have no other support to provide you. And that's why I'm still confused. It's like, I don't know why this is different than everything else you guys do.
Well, I guess we're also looking to say what guidance you don't want to see. What was it you didn't like in the fall? We're looking for guidance about how to fix this and address the issues.
But honestly, Bob, it's not up to us to do that. Okay. I mean, in fact, you're doing what you should do, which is you go out and you speak to the community and you hear what their concerns are, because at the end of the day, it's town meeting that's going to make this decision and not us. I mean, certainly if, if we as individuals have concerns or thoughts, I think all of us, none of us are shy. We're going to convey those to you and let you know what our thoughts are. But I'm like, yeah, go do your thing, basically. Okay. Dylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, my understanding is that either the select board or the planning board could put this article on the warrant. And, a bit to Bob's point, we had some discussion amongst the planning board when the Economic Development Committee approached us about putting it back on, and there was some reluctance to put forward an article that had just not passed in the previous town meeting. So, I would say that at least what I was looking for was some general indication from this board about would a revised article that goes through perhaps a better process, but that probably comes out of that process looking a lot like the amended article that did not pass in the last town meeting, be something that this board would not just be in favor of the process, but I was actually looking to sort of get a litmus test for how this board would come down on their feelings about drive-throughs in the commercial highway district in general. Because just if I'm being completely direct, our board has a lot of things that we work on, and we're trying to consider whether or not we're going to put forward the effort to put this back on, on the warrant for the town meeting. And, I think the Economic Development Committee is sort of looking for that feedback from this board as well. And I don't want to speak for Bruce, certainly. So I was sort of looking to get a little more than, not certainly a commitment to an article that's not yet written, but some general feedback in terms of how this board feels about, drive-throughs in general.
Scott, you had your hand up, and then Mark, and then Bruce.
So I guess, last fall, a number of concerns were raised at town meeting, and some of them, if we had the benefit, of more socialization, may have been alleviated. So, for example, how many we're going to allow on Route 110? What do we think that does to traffic? And those questions aren't really answered well the first time on town meeting floor. They're best done as a community involvement discussion. But for me, my own concern last year had been exactly that, which is if you have them on Route 110, where could they end up? How many could there be? Do we turn 110 into Route 9? And that's a concern. So I think that would almost certainly come from other members of town. Which you'd hear that concern. It's not unique to me. So from my standpoint, I think you want to have this open forum with the town, and in principle, this is a good idea, but the details are where it's going to really, work or not work.
Wait, before I get to you, Bruce, Mark had a comment.
Yeah, again, guys, listen, I'm just confused by this whole thing. You need to make a decision on the priorities for your own board. I'm not going to make those priorities for you, nor am I going to signal to you which way I go. I, like Scott, had some of those same questions. You have to decide whether this makes the priority, and if it passes, great, and if it fails, that happens. But you have to make that decision because that's your responsibility, your decision to put it on as a warrant article. I'm not going to support or not support it. You're not going to get any signal from me tonight, if that's what you're looking for. But if you feel it's a priority and you feel like that's where your efforts should go, then that's exactly what you should do. That's why you're the board.
Bruce?
Yeah, Dylan captured with great eloquence and candor and directness what I would have said. I'm going to ratchet it up even a little bit further. So as a point of matter, as a point of fact, the deadline for non-petition articles, if I'm reading this right, is March 31st. Unfortunately, we couldn't get in front of this committee on the 9th. Today is the 23rd. Time is not in the favor of being able to, even with our utmost efforts and sincerity, to really get into some of these town halls. Our hope really was to get, even as I said, some form of endorsement. A citizen's petition would be the only option for us. The planning board doesn't meet until the first Monday, I believe, of April, which would be the 5th. So if you look at the schedule, it is not exactly, it's not helpful to the issues here. So Bob and Dylan have been very diplomatic. I would have liked to have seen some form of a verbal endorsement or verbal sense of support, because our backs are against the corner, and the reality of it is, I think we all know, holding any type of meaningful town halls, citizen inputs is just not going to happen. Personally, I'm getting ready to go offline for a couple of nights, a Jewish holiday. Today's the 23rd. The 31st is next Wednesday. Let's face facts. The schedule really doesn't support this.
Okay, all right. Jody?
We can put a placeholder article in the warrant, and then you all can figure out whether you want to sponsor it or not. So that's not a problem, Bruce. It just tries to get people focused. So I'll be happy to put a placeholder, and then we can pull it out if you decide not to move forward.
That was actually, hello, Tom. That was actually going to be my comment, is that we can put a placeholder on it. You don't have to have final verbiage or wording at the time. Nobody expects you to have considered and had all your town hall and town meetings beforehand. In fact, that rarely happens before we put before an article goes on the warrant. That's why we have until June to work on it. And also, I mean, at some point, if you feel like it's not going to pass and you don't want to bring it to town meeting, you always have the option of withdrawing it and pulling it before we get to town meeting.
Okay,
but
that
Tom,
makes sense.
I assume that you have appeared, actually Tom Barry, not Tom Clay for a minute, okay? Tom Barry, I assume that you have popped up on my screen because you have something to say.
Absolutely.
And you are a member of the EDC.
Thank you, Andrea. I just wanted to say that there's a lot of work ahead of us. If the Economic Development Committee and the Planning Board are going to go through with this article, there's a ton of work to be done. We plan to do a lot of community meetings. The last thing that we want to do is create division in this town. And if the select board tonight said, look, we just don't see it happening so soon, 6 months after, so we would probably not support it, or if you said, geez, I have nothing against drive-throughs, I think it could help the town. Obviously the Economic Development Committee is trying to help business, but it's also, more importantly, trying to help the residents of Westford in these COVID times, as Bruce explained. However, short of creating division in the town, I think we would pull it right now. If you said to us tonight, you are barking up the wrong tree. We have nothing against drive-throughs, but you're barking up the wrong tree. I think that's That's all we were looking for, is some kind of a thought from you folks. That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Thanks.
Tom Clay, then Mark.
Anita. No, go
Then
to Anita after.
Okay,
Anita
Tom
after.
Clay, Anita, and then Mark. Tom Clay, you're muted.
I was on mute. Okay, unmute. So I'm repeating myself a little bit, but given that I don't think you're going to get a consensus of the board, because I don't think the board feels like we're at that point in the process yet, sort of my individual opinion along the lines of what Scott was sharing was that a lot of the obstacles to clear understanding and getting kind of a clean vote last time were, socialization with the community, clarity about exactly what the plan meant, understanding what the limits in the process would be. So I think developing all of those would be very useful. And I think you'd have a much better, my own sense is that if the community understood it, understood what the limits were in a much more clear way, that you would, I think you'd have a much better understanding of the community and a much more straightforward vote. So at least as an individual, I think going through that process could be valuable and overcome a lot of the problems that came up last time.
Anita.
I know this is probably not the right thing to say, but because there is no article on the table right now, but I support drive-throughs. I support the idea of it. I don't know what the article is going to say, so I guess we'll wait to see what that looks like. But I think they're doing all the right things of going to the Commission on Disability, going to Council on Aging, two groups that we know who benefit from drive-throughs. I know the parent population of young kids do also support it. Not everybody, I understand that. And I think, I don't think you're doing the wrong thing. I don't understand, I'm sort of new to the timeline of when something can come back onto the Warren article, but I'm happy to support your efforts, however that looks.
Thank you.
Mark?
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll say one more time, I agree with the process. Tom Barry, you asked, do you think there's enough time? So I do think there is likely no way you're going to get the kind of community support you are wanting as we sit here at the end of March ahead of town meeting with all of the facts that are needed to be gathered and all of the meetings that you need to have in a world of COVID. I don't think there is a chance. And so if you were to ask my opinion, what do I think of it passing? Because you haven't had the opportunity to do whatever it is that you need to do, I think it's a higher probability than not. That does not mean that there isn't support, but I don't think there's any chance you're going to be able to get all of the input and craft something in time for a meeting. That's my viewpoint. But again, you guys have to make that call.
Okay, so I actually am going to respectfully disagree with Mark and say that I think if you put your mind to it, you certainly can have, you've already been to the Disabilities Commission and Council of Aging. So I think you can go out and get the kind of input you want and educate the community. I think if you heard from the community, to answer your question, Tom Barry, I think if you heard from the community, overwhelmingly, no, we don't want this, then I think that would give you your answer. It really wouldn't matter what we thought at that point if you didn't have backing from, the majority of the community. And likewise, it's the flip side too. I mean, if the community, at the end of the day, if this is something that the community really wants and that they really support, even if we as a board decided we didn't support it, they won't, they'll just ignore us and do what they, do what people want and, support what they want, to be perfectly honest about it. But as I sit here tonight, what I do support, I do support you going out and doing this work, okay? I would have, if you asked me tonight and said, could you put it on the warrant, tonight while we go out and do the work and go through the process, I would say absolutely yes, okay? Get the answers to the questions that, Tom and Scott have raised, hear from the community and do that kind of groundwork. Absolutely. I completely support you folks doing that. And, going forward with that process. And then we see, and then we see where we are. Do I think it's worthwhile? Yes. Do I think you're barking up a wrong tree? No. But at the end of the day, it's for you, the EDC and the planning board, to decide whether at this point in time you've got the time and the energy to put into this. And certainly from that process, I support you in doing that. Scott, I'm going to let you have the last word, and then I think we're done with this because I think we have talked this to death.
It's very quick. I just think, to Bruce, you're right. It's hard to get a lot of feedback in the COVID time, but Anita and I are running a public, forum on the police chief process. Well, first, it's possible it'll be a big crowd online. It can be done. So if it's a priority for the planning board and the economic development committee, I'm sure that Judy will help you out with, the technical resources to make it happen. You only need to have 1 or 2 meetings with the community. It's not a big deal. I think it's doable.
Right. And Mike Wells, who is sitting in the background of this meeting, I'm sure will be more than willing to help you out from the technological point of view.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good luck, and keep us posted. Thank you all.
I need 1 minute to just adjourn this. Motion to adjourn this planning board.
Sure. Sorry,
joint meeting with the select board. That's okay.
Second.
Motion to adjourn EDC.
Second.
All those in favor, Bob?
Aye.
Hey,
Aye.
I say aye. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks. All right. Where are we? We are at old business, new business. So we have a request to add a question to the annual town election ballot regarding House 4469, an act authorizing the town of Westford to establish a means-tested senior citizen property tax exemption. Patty Doobie, I know, is out there. I mean, in essence, guys, this is what we need to do to get, to finally have our senior citizens property tax exemption adopted by the town. It was approved by the state legislature. Now it has to go back for a ballot vote. And so we need to have it on the ballot in May.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Steve Cronin, we have an update on the 1.4 dioxane results at the Westford Water Department Supply Well Forge 1. Hello again.
Steve may want me to give a little summary before he, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, really?
So we collected a repeat sample on February 18th after we had a level of 0.24 micrograms per liter of 1,4 dioxane at the Forge 2 well. The repeat sample came back as non-detected. So at this point in time, we think that original sample from January was just an anomaly, but to be certain, we're going to conduct some repeat sampling over the next couple of months just to confirm that result and make sure that there's no cause for concern. We are going to continue our quarterly sampling schedule after that, but in the meantime, we'd like to conduct some additional samples and just stay on top of this.
Great, appreciate it. Any questions from the board? Okay, thanks, Steve, appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Have a good night. Okay, we're at our consent agenda, and we have a request to approve the following. A town common request for a boot camp fitness class. The applicant is Suzanne Lewis on behalf of In Motion Cycling and Fitness Studio. The dates are Wednesday, April 14th, 2021 through May 12th, 2021 from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. And then we have a request for the Summer Farmers Market. Avery Adam on behalf of the Roden Bush Community Center is the applicant. The dates are Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 through October 5th, 2021. The time is from noon until 7 p.m. And then we have a flag hoisting request. The event is the 106th anniversary of the Armenian genocide. It's a request to hoist the Armenian flag. The applicant is Ara Jack Navorian on behalf of the Armenian National Committee of Merrimack Valley. Location, well, it says Westford Town Hall or other suitable location, but I think in accordance with our policy, it would be on the temporary pole that gets set up on the Common. And the date would be from Friday, April 23rd, 2021 to Saturday, April 24th, 2021. Comments? Is there a motion to approve? Scott, are you making a motion or a comment?
Just a comment. I mean, I would approve, but I would like to make sure that the Road and Bush coordinates with Jeff Stevens that, we're looking at a public event over a long period of time, and conditions with COVID may not change over that time. Frankly, I'm sure they would anyway. I'm sure Jeff would, just to be clear, to Avery and Jeff, that hope they coordinate, on some regular basis to make sure we keep that a safe town function. That's all. Other than that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Okay, Tom Clay?
Just to add the same point that Scott had, just that they positively coordinate, because if it's an event where there could be high density and people serving food and eating food, and just want to make sure that whatever's happening is in compliance with whatever Jeff is recommending at the time. So I'll second.
So can the motion for a friendly amendment, in accordance with the recommendations from Public Safety and the Health Department, could we make a friendly amendment to that?
That's why you're chair. Yes.
Okay.
And seconded.
All right. All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any board reports or updates? Seeing none. Okay. Town managers report. Jody, you're up.
So I have a request to authorize the submittal of a hazard mitigation plan on behalf of the town of Westford to MEMA. And if there's no questions on that, I will proceed to the contracts.
Any questions? I don't see any. Jeff Morissette, you had a very easy night.
Okay, and then the contracts that I have are a one-year contract extension with All States Asphalt, PJ Albert, Superior Seal Coat for assorted on-call services, as the price is listed in the price proposal form. A one-year contract extension with Markings Inc. for traffic line painting, and a one-year contract extension with Pathfinder Tree Service, LLC for on-call tree removal. Patriot Properties for real and personal property consulting services for fiscal year 22 to 24 in the amount of $122,100. Millennium Maintenance and Power Sweeping for street sweeping in the amount of $50,521.15. And a contract amendment with Ty and Bond for the town's municipal separate stormwater system permit year 3 compliance at $46,300. And a purchase order with Merrimack Valley Truck Service for repairs to a ladder truck in the amount of $17,918.91.
Any questions? There a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Okay. Is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
So
So moved.
Just
Second.
say, gosh, you want me to read all the correspondence? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
So moved. Second.
And just by a raise of hands, all those in favor? All right. Thank you all very much. Good night, Westford. Everybody stay safe and be well. Good night.
Night.
Night.